joining me, Naeem, and a selection of brilliant customer experience professionals from around the world to share what we believe to be hugely important insight related to the broad subject of customer experience, but also connected to a period of our lives that we will always look back on, in some cases fondly, in other cases with fear and trepidation of the memories of what 2020 has done to businesses, organizations around the world. My name is Ian Golding. I am so pleased to be able to bring together today some of the authors of the recently published Customer Experience 2. In fact, you can see from Nick's background, the book perfectly presented. And not only are these professionals a wonderful demonstration of what it means to be a customer experience professional, they are absolutely focused, as I am, on sharing knowledge and expertise with others. And so we've seen today as an opportunity to do just that, to inspire as many people as we can to think about what is happening now, but with a lens as to what is going to come in the future. We have 6 of the co-authors of the book who are going to share their insight with us today. And they are genuinely from all around the world. This is not a UK-centric session. This is a global session. We will start in the UK with Nick, who you can see on the screen. Nick, give everyone a wave. There we go. We'll have a little bit of theatre into this. Before moving to Finland, Georgia, Russia, the US, and finally, we shall end in Greece. So we've got a wonderful cross-section of expertise and specialism to share with you. The session is being recorded, so if you feel that others in your network, your organizations would value from listening to what these people are going to share, then please do send the link to the video to them, which will be shared a little bit later across social media channels. So, as I said in my very early introduction, we won't forget 2020 for a variety of reasons. For some of us, this year has been possibly the most challenging professional experience of our lives. For others, there have been huge positives to come out of this situation. But one thing is for certain, 2020 will remind all of us that we cannot stand still, either as individuals or as organizations. Nothing stands still, nothing stays the same, and we have no idea what is going to come in the future. And we have got to continue to become ever more agile and ever more capable of adapting to the changing needs and expectations of customers. And so I want to start our journey around the world today by introducing Nick to you all. Now, Nick is one of the most intelligent human beings that I've met in my years of work, and is someone who has a very deep grounding in the field of insight and actually understanding emotional intelligence and the way humans think and act. Nick, thank you so much for joining us today.
That's very generous of you. Thank you.
Well, you can pay me later for that. So this is going to be a short, sharp view on your perspective of where we are today. So firstly, just give us all a sense of, who is Nick? And from your perspective, thinking of obviously customer experience in the background, what do you stand for when it comes to the way businesses should operate?
Well, firstly, I'm Nick. I run a company called Paradigm CX in the UK, as you've mentioned. And I'm helping organisations at the moment understand and manage the relationship between their brands, their people and their customers. And, that's not new. But what is new and what is evolving is the way in which those interactions happen. And as you've mentioned, that emotional, that behavioural contact and the influence that has on how people respond to different things that organisations do, both through their people or through their marketing, is changing. And yeah, COVID has had a dramatic impact on people's fear. And we're now looking at other things that we perhaps didn't regard as quite as important as before, like trust, for example.
Very interesting. And you, I know, have used a word before in conversations that we've had that probably very effectively sums up the current situation. And that word is elastic. And that might surprise some people. It's not to do with underwear, but you know, if you were going to provide a key message about what's happening, you know, just explain what you mean by elastic.
So by that, and I was working with some clients, we developed a service recovery model, and we called it elastic service recovery. We want people to come back and we want people to re-engage. So it is a play on words, but fundamentally it's about helping typically your lowest paid staff who have the most impact on your customer experience be able to transmit and translate their the business ethos across. And yeah, using that is key, and empathy is a big word, so we start with that. So E for elastic is empathy, listen, apologize, sort the problem fundamentally, thank your customer for bringing it to your attention, but then inform them of what's happened and then close that case down. So rather than just leave people hanging, which a lot of companies do inadvertently, it's closed in their minds, but it's not necessarily in the customers. And it's about having that fully closed loop process at every stage of the customer contact so that your customer knows what to expect, and then that becomes part of their norm when they engage with you.
Fabulous. I love it. I think it's a brilliant acronym, but the whole principle of elasticity works so well. And having that disciplined approach to thinking about how to deal with this is perfect, because if you then take your principle of that elasticity to your key thought for what's happening right now, you know, as I say, some people think that this is a very negative situation, and others think it's positive. But what do you think about the here and now?
For me, it brings opportunity. So what we've had to go through, everybody, is the degree of change. And that is a level of disruption that marketers have been trying to do constantly. They want to disrupt your behavior in order to engage a different product, different way of doing things in order to get their products top of mind. So we've suddenly seen entire populations go through this process of change and become, even if it's just for a short window, more accepting of these changes. So there's a good opportunity, and I don't know how long it will last, for organisations to make their changes for themselves, their internal changes, their structural changes, and their process changes to allow themselves to adapt to more customer-centric ways of doing things and to get closer to their customers. But as I said, I don't know how long that window is going to last, because
and this is the challenge. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, planning has become something that's very difficult. But that's a very good segue to my last but one question. What does the future look like? Because you know we don't know what's going to happen in the environment around us. So what should people be thinking about going forward?
I think for me, it's about looking at the customer outcomes. Businesses are quite often focused on measuring their own performance against themselves and their competitors, but not necessarily thinking about what are they doing for their customers, what are the outcomes their customers are experiencing, and can they do things better, which in turn will bring greater reward for the business. So for me, it's about looking at those KPIs, changing them, measuring the customer outcome before the business target. And what that will do is that will create a degree of dynamic and adaptable change within an organisation. It will enable them to ride uncertainty and create a path for themselves based on the people who are making that business exist. Without a customer, you don't have a business. So to enforce a process that is business focused is just not going to work right now, because that market is changing and what we used to know is not necessarily as it was.
And I suppose the challenge is that there will still be organisations with their heads in the sand, thinking that this will just all go away and everything will return to normal. And for me, that's why people like us, and when I say like us, not just you and me, but everyone that's listening to this, are so important, because we've got to work harder than ever before to keep influencing those who are able to make decisions. That we've got to think differently. And so what I'd like to spend the final part of our time together focusing on is, and this is an unscripted thing, Nick, so you don't know I'm going to ask you this question. What you know how hard it is to influence leaders on the inside to change the way they think. If I were to ask you to name one tip, one idea, one thing that people should do to get leaders to listen, is there something that springs to mind?
A couple of things spring to mind. I think it's always important to find a champion in an organisation that you instantly connect with and have a chemistry with, that enables you to bounce ideas off. And then it's about finding the common goal. What are the leaders in that business striving to achieve? Everyone will have slightly different agendas, so it's important to understand those in order to then start putting in the foundations of the change that you're looking to achieve. But to get buy-in, you need to make sure there's value for each of those stakeholders in the thing that they hold dear to themselves.
Yes.
So it's really important, firstly, to just listen. And we talk about empathy with customers. There needs to be empathy between consultants, people, business leaders, to understand where you're going, where they want to go, and to align. Now that alignment doesn't have to be totally company-wide. It's ideal if it is, but it's really important that the business leaders agree on the direction that you're going to be working with them on.
Totally agree. And I think we have seen lots of great examples of empathy, collaboration, people coming together through all of this. But sadly, we've also seen examples of bad behavior at the same time. And so I think that's brilliant food for thought. Last question. Tell us a little bit about your chapter in the book. Everyone that knows me knows that I'm a terrible salesperson, but I do leave props behind me, as you have. What is it that people will get out of reading the book from your chapter?
So there's three things that I spoke about. The first is about very much that stakeholder engagement, understanding what you're looking to achieve with the business, creating a custom framework, and by that it's looking at every decision you make along the process of change. Is it going to make the customers' lives easy? Is it going to make the employees' lives easier? And if you ask those two questions constantly throughout the change process, it helps guide you towards the outcome that you're trying to achieve. And then the last piece of it was, for me, it was a live case study. So it was not just talking about the theory, but to actually show this has happened, this is how you do it, and some of the pitfalls and challenges you come up with, or come up against, rather.
No, that's brilliant. And this is why I don't want to do too hard a sell on the book, but it's such a wonderful opportunity to learn from so many all in one place. And I know that you've got so much to share, Nick, and I really hope that not only will people read what you've written in the book, but they will reach out to you as well to learn more. And on that point, Luis Mello, hi Luis, lovely to see that you're here, has asked if you can share the meaning of the ELASTIC acronym. So maybe if you could put that into the chat afterwards, that'd be brilliant.
Yes,
because as he has said, he loves it, and I do too. Thank you so much, Nick, for joining us today and for sharing that very fast-paced insight. We look forward to continue learning from you going forward. So thank you, Nick. That is our first specialist today as part of this session. We are now going to move around the world, and we're going to go a little bit further north to the wonderful country of Finland and the beautiful city of Helsinki. And it is a real pleasure to be able to introduce my friend and peer, Sirte. Hello, Sirte. You're on mute. We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. So
worry.
A
I
bit.
wasn't sure if it was intentional to be on mute, but we want to hear your voice, Sirte.
I know it's such a beautiful voice.
Fabulous. Once again, thank you so much for joining us in this session.
Mhm.
That those of you who have not come across Sirte before, I'll be surprised if you haven't, because she has more energy than any human that I know anywhere on earth. And as well as being a huge fan of Lego, which I'm sure you're about to find out, Sirte has done a huge amount of work to bring together the customer experience community, primarily in Finland and the Nordics, but in other parts of the world too. So Sirte has a huge depth of knowledge in what's going on. So I know I've given you a bit of a boost up there, Sirte, but a little bit like I asked Nick, what is it that you stand for? Give people a little introduction to Sirte and what she believes in.
Sure. So my name is Sirte Pihlaja. I come from a company called Sirte. We are a customer experience agency, the first one in Finland. And as Ian mentioned there, I'm also a volunteer in CXPA activities, leading the CXPA Finland team here, and was also one of the founding members of the CXPA. And actually one of the first Europeans to get the CCXP, as that one goes. I love to help people out, whether it be community building, which is basically I'm volunteering in it, but it's a full-time job, let's say. that's the truth, honest truth. I want to really make people happy. That's my part that I'm playing in this world, and that's why I have brought the Legos into our client cases, because I think that that's a really great way to bring some happiness into the world. And I come from the happiest country on earth, so why shouldn't I be helping everybody out?
And you tell me that every time we speak.
I
So
know, I do.
eventually I will remember that, Sirte.
Three years in a row.
And actually that point about you said that a lot of the work you do in the community you do for free. I think it's a really important point, because the customer experience community does a lot of what it does without financial reward, because that's not the primary motivation. And a little bit like this session today, this is not about money, this is about sharing and collaborating, and that's what you are a brilliant example of. And with that in mind, what's your key message of what's happening right now? Nick talked about elastic. What's your perspective on the here and now?
I think that we're in front of unprecedented challenges at the moment, and we really need to adapt to things and about the things that are going around in the world, around ourselves and everybody else. But we shouldn't be looking into our own navel only and be centered around ourselves. So that's why I'm always talking about this, bringing happiness to everybody, because I think that if people are happy, they are much more likely to help people around them. And that's really the reason why I want to help people be also more creative, because that's another way of bringing that happiness into the organizational culture, really. And when you become more creative, when you find that inner child within you, because everybody keeps saying that I'm not creative, that's for designers and that's for people who are doing artistic work or whatever, but we all have that inner child within us. And I think it's just a question of letting that person out who we used to be previously.
So here's a question then, because I totally agree with you, but how do we allow people, not allow people, that's the wrong expression, but how can we encourage businesses to give people the time to be creative when they're in this sort of panic mode situation of trying to deal with what's happening at the moment? A lot of businesses say to me, we haven't got time for this. We don't have time to do. How can you help organizations to understand how to deal with that?
That's a really good question, Ian. I think that we can't afford not to take that time at this moment, because this is the time of renewal. This is the time when we should be stopping right in our tracks and think that, okay, whatever we have been doing so far, we should really ponder now whether or not it's worth doing those things in the future. I know you have changed some of your habits and what you're doing in your professional life, and I think we all should, as businesses, as individuals, take that time and think about things in a different way, because it's really the only way of getting out of this crisis is that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And you know, again, it's easier for people like us. We're our own boss. We can make a decision to change the way we do things. But I very much like your the expression of we don't really have a choice. I've heard organisations using the expression that this is a must-win battle. You know, which sounds a bit aggressive, but actually it probably is. You know, we're seeing the demise of organizations that would have died anyway, and all this has done is accelerate that happening. So what about your view on going forward then? What would your thought be for the future? What do companies need to be thinking about?
Um, well, I think you should really stick to your guns and keep working on for your customers and their benefit, because at the end, it's the ones who come out of these situations as winners will be those ones who have showed that they really care about people around them. And I think that you should be doing things differently than you were used to, maybe, and
Yes.
take this chance for a renewal as a possible outcome.
Yes.
I think there are going to be quite a lot of new startups that are going to be founded based on this situation. And I think that actually this is probably the best thing that could have happened. I mean, it's really weird to say this, but I think this is the best thing that could have happened to the world, that we really need to tune out of what we were doing and think things differently and take another good look at our planet, basically.
Yeah. Again, I totally agree. To a degree, you need something to go wrong for you to stop and reflect and think of the way forward. So, with all of that in mind, tell us about your chapter in the book, because that will give people that aren't particularly au fait with what's Lego got to do with all of this. Tell us a little bit about it.
Right. So what I was talking about in my chapter is not just Lego Serious Play. It's just a case that I'm bringing forward. Really, what I'm talking about is the role of play in business and in life in general, maybe, and how if you really do bring play into and look at things from that lens, you might really be much more creative in whatever endeavors you take. And I think that, there's a saying that creativity is intelligence having fun. And I totally agree with that saying. There are so many good benefits of letting people, let down their hair in a way and jump with the Legos or some other props. Or there are so many creative methodologies that you can use to change the way that people think. It's just a question of which one is the best one for you and your organization, I think. And well, I happen to like Legos. I've never been an AFOL, an adult fan of Legos, but I'm starting to become one, I would say.
Brilliant. And that quote, I have heard that quote before, but I think it's a brilliant one. That creativity is intelligence having fun. And, right now that is what people need. That they need a little bit of fun, and they need to be given that opportunity to think differently. And if Lego is the way to do it, then brilliant.
Yeah, I think that also it gives a new way, a new sort of almost not just terminology, but almost like a new language to people, because as the slogan goes, you're giving your brain a hand with the Legos. And it's not just once or twice that I've had the situation where I had people after a workshop coming to me. They were really enthusiastic and energized, that I've never given so much about myself. But I look at that guy next to me, that he's an introvert. He's never said a single word within this team. And now he's talking and I never knew he was that intelligent. And he's like the best person here. So it's also, Lego Serious Play is not about team building. That's a big misconception that people often have.
Yes.
It's not just, let's have some Legos and play. That's not what you're doing with the bricks. It's more about getting to the state of flow, which then allows you to fast track your discussions and do things differently.
Wonderful.
In a way.
Thank you so much, Sirte. I know once I get you talking about Lego Play, you could talk about it for 3 days. So I'm going to stop you to not give you that opportunity. But again, if you want to know more about Lego Serious Play, which is something that Sirte is genuinely a specialist in, then please do reach out to her. And Olga, maybe share your details on the chat, the Q&A, so people can see that. Thank you so much for joining us, Sirte. It is time for us to move on to our next panelist, and we're about to have an Olga fest, for want of a better description, because we have two Olgas, not one, but two Olgas, who are going to share their knowledge with us, and both are equally as brilliant as each other. I'm glad that the face has flashed on the screen, so I don't get the names mixed up, but I am delighted that we're joined by Olga G, as she knows I call her, Olga Guseva, who is somewhere outside St. Petersburg, or in St. Petersburg in Russia. Welcome, Olga. It's so lovely to see you with us this afternoon.
Hello, Ian. Actually, today I'm not in St. Petersburg or near St. Petersburg. I'm in Moscow now because tomorrow we are having a big customer experience forum, not a virtual, but a physical one.
Wow, life goes on.
We're going to be celebrating the Russian CX Awards, the finals, and congratulating the winners. And looking to what have changed during those COVID times, how the companies have survived, and what can they do better.
Amazing. Well, that's wonderful. Well, just hearing that, I'm sure will give everyone that's listening to this and watching it a huge amount of confidence that things will move on for the better. So, Olga, tell everyone a little bit about you, and again, what do you stand for when it comes to this subject?
Okay, as you have said, I'm Olga, one of the many Olgas in CX community, and I'm a managing partner of Integria Consult. We are one of the few companies in Russia who concentrate solely on customer experience, and we work with large and small Russian and international companies. And I am the first CXP in Russia, CXP, I'm sorry, the Certified Customer Experience Professional in Russia, and the judge over a number of Russian and international customer experience awards, International CX Award, European CX Awards, and CX Leader of the Year. And one of the few CXP recognized trainers, and I'm really proud to deliver customer experience masterclass, the famous one created by Ian. I deliver it in Russia.
You didn't need to say that, Olga. So tell us, what is your philosophy with customer experience? Because many people may not know that there is such an active CX community in that part of the world.
Well, actually, Russia is, I would say, one of the younger CX communities. And large companies are now, of course, well aware of the importance of customer experience, and they invest time, energy, and talent into developing this. But for the majority of companies in Russia, it's something still very unclear. And we see our role of bringing the best CX knowledge that we see across the world into the country and helping people find out more about it and actually implement this wonderful knowledge my colleagues are sharing across the world.
So what is your key message when you're communicating with organizations for the first time? What is the message that you tend to deliver to them?
Well, we basically start from the purpose. And basically we say to the companies that there are only two ways to engage in CX. First is you go there out of love, because you love your customers, you want to work in a better company, you want to make a better world, you want to make better product, etc. So you go into this out of love. And the second reason is you go there out of fear, because if you don't go there, pretty soon you're going to be out of the market and you're going to be overridden by competitors. And I would say 100% of the companies do hear the message, either the first one or the second one.
Yeah, very good. And so with that in mind, and putting love and fear alongside each other, it's an interesting balance of words. What's your thought about the current situation? You know, what is your guidance and advice to companies dealing with COVID? Because obviously I know Russia is very different to other countries around the world in the way the pandemic has rolled out. You now have this new vaccine coming and all of this. What are your current thoughts on the way businesses should be dealing with it?
Well, you know, tomorrow I'm going to be delivering a keynote at the Customer Experience Forum. And when we were preparing with it for this keynote with the team, we have come to an idea that the situation all of us are now is like landing on an unknown planet. So it's really completely new and different world. And we have no idea what's going on and how it looks like. There are no rules, no best practices, no, I don't know, useful tips or hints how to do it. And you have to learn yourself here and now. Yes. And the question is, how do you adapt to this new reality? How quickly do you learn in this new world? And that's a question of survival.
Yeah. And you know what? I think survival is a word that's probably not used enough, you know, because this is no longer about domination. You know, this is about sustainability. How do we sustain ourselves in the future? And so thinking to the future, what should organizations be thinking about going forward? You know, you and I have been involved in discussions about the post-COVID era. Now, who knows when that's going to happen? But what do you think the future needs to happen in the future?
Well, I would say definitely the companies eventually need to look into customer needs and deal something about that. And the right way to do that and do it properly is not only like, I don't know, do it on the level of business processes or products, but really look deep inside, look what's going on inside the company and look into the corporate culture that enables all those changes. Because in such fast changing environment, you can never ever have right business processes. They're going to be changing forever. So the only competitive sustainable competitive advantage, strategic one, is your corporate culture and your ability to constantly adapt to the changing world. Totally. So I guess this is the main message I would bring to every single company, irrespectively of industry and size.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. One thing I can guarantee is that the audience tomorrow are going to be in for a real treat listening to you. It's going to be fantastic. So, final question. Tell everyone a little bit about your chapter in the book. What did you focus on?
Well, no surprise that my chapter is devoted to customer-centric culture, and it's devoted to a very simple and practical tool that can help companies understand their own culture, measure it numerically, which is great, because the biggest problem with corporate culture, that it's like a cloud. Everyone sees it, but you cannot really feel and touch it. And something you cannot touch or measure, you don't know how to manage. That's why you have so much resistance on the side of top management, because they are used to think numbers and there are no numbers there. So I guess the tool that brings the opportunity to measure it, to make it clear and understandable, split it into simple pieces you can manage, that's a very convenient way to work on your culture and make it better.
100%. And, you know, again, I love the fact that what you've shared and what everyone is sharing is practical. This isn't just theory. This is real stuff that people can put in place and see demonstrable change. Olga, thank you so much for giving up your time ahead of what's going to be such a busy day. Do make sure you share insight and pictures and everything you can of the day tomorrow, because I think the fact that that'll be the first big physical event related to customer experience for a very long time, we need to use that to inspire everyone else that it will come back again.
Yes, it will be my pleasure.
Fabulous. Brilliant. Good luck tomorrow. Thank you so much, Olga. And it is time for us to move from one Olga to another Olga. Although I set your expectation, it's easy to tell the difference because one has blonde hair and one has brown hair. So that makes it slightly easier. A huge welcome to, again, my friend and colleague, Olga Potaptseva. Olga is currently in Georgia, but Olga could really be anywhere because she operates so internationally. Olga, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I know lots about you, but many people might not know lots about you. So just give an overview of you. And again, what's your philosophy on all of this?
Sure. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me. Very exciting event. I'm really enjoying listening to all the other speakers and your exchanges. I am a founder and the director for the European Customer Consultancy, and we specialize in making sure CX programs land well, are effective, and are sustainable. And my Agile Implementation Toolkit is of great help with this. What I stand for is, I guess, the world without borders. Georgia is my 5th country of residence. And I really like the idea of people being free to go wherever they want, free to share what they know and contribute positively to the world, but also preserving their own cultures along the way and making the world a richer place. And I don't know if I've ever told you this before, Ian, but I was born into the family of a rocket scientist.
No, you didn't tell me that. But it does explain your level of intellect, but no, you've not told me that.
Yeah, and I think I was thinking about this, how does rocket science connect me to CX? And this structure and rigor are kind of genetic, as well as the creativity and the dream. So it's not that CX is exactly the rocket science, but we're as close as we can get.
Now, let me explore this for a second. Your sort of key message that I just heard out of that is structure and rigor. Now, lots of organizations will confuse structure and rigor with, processes, bureaucracy, complication. Just share a little bit about, why is structure and rigor so important, and why isn't it all of those horrible things that I've just mentioned?
Yes, and just like many organizations, you haven't picked up on the second part, which is dream and inspiration. And this is
right.
what CX is, dream and inspiration. But dreams don't come true just because you want them. You have to work for them. And I'm sure we all can relate to things in our personal life where we've set ourselves a dream, an aspiration, and then we put plans in place to go there. And then we break those plans into specific tasks that we want to do in our daily life, right? You want to be a better athlete, then you train. And same with CX. You have an aspiration as a company to be customer-centric, but you have to define what that means. You have to measure if you're getting there, and you have to set yourselves goals to take incremental steps and readjust as you go along.
No,
that's
brilliant.
What structure and rigor in CX is about.
Brilliant. You see, the rocket scientist is definitely there. Brilliant. I absolutely agree. So with that in mind, one of the things that you did in the early days of the pandemic is create a manifesto. I think that's what it was called. Your perspective on what is happening and what should organizations be doing to get through it. And those of you that didn't see that manifesto, I'm sure you'll be able to share a link so people can see it afterwards. But one of the things in that manifesto that has stuck with me is the need for businesses to do the right thing. And can you just expand on why was that part of the manifesto, and why is that so important now more than ever before?
Thank you for remembering this. I think there was a very significant piece of work and really brought it to light that understanding your customers isn't enough. Yes, you should understand them, but you should be an empathetic company. And empathetic is defined as knowing what the emotion is or the need and being able to do something about it. And doing what's right, especially in the times like this, is more important than sticking to your defined processes or to your business strategy or to your financial goals. Sometimes we just have to reach out and offer a hand, and these gestures are remembered much better than being right. You know, you have to do right, not be right.
I totally agree, and it's why I will never forget it, because it almost proves the point. You know, I think too often businesses are so obsessed with the way things have always been done, but it takes courage to say, do you know what, actually, no, we're going to do the right thing for you, not necessarily the right thing for us, but the right thing for you. And knowing that it's the right thing for you will benefit us in the long term. So I thought that was brilliant. So that was then. We're now still in it, but what do you think the future looks like? What's your thought on the way forward?
Well, I think a big lesson for the CX profession and CX community out of the pandemic is that we have to be a relevant business discipline. And I'm a reading part of what I do is education, and I have a module on CX in an MBA course, and I teach people about different types of economies, and we all talk about how we are an experience economy, but we are not really. We are developing experience economy, because in the true experience economy you would be charging for experiences, whilst right now many businesses treat it as an add-on. Like, we have our product, we have our price, we have our processes, and then we'll throw in experience. It has to be the other way around. But to demonstrate how CX makes business more agile, resilient, and adaptable, we have to be quite strict about our focus on customer centricity. And I think agile CX management tools lead to more trust in CX and more sustainability for us as a discipline.
Totally agree. Now, agile CX tools, three words that people may not have heard before. Now, I'm not going to ask you to define it, because it would take much longer than we have. But just give me a one-word answer to this question. Is agile solely about technological change? No. Okay. And if you want to know more about that and how agile can be applied from a customer experience perspective, then you must reach out to Olga. But in the last couple of minutes, Olga, tell us a little bit about your chapter in the book.
So my chapter in the book talks about creating CX believers. And to create CX believers, you must appeal to the senses and to the logic. So how you appeal to the senses and how you appeal to the logic, you can read about in my book. But I think the key message is that CX needs to be made part of organizational DNA. And for that, you need to create true CX believers who not just believe in it, but actually do the work. And that's Absolutely. What the book is about.
Brilliant, fabulous. So if you want to know more, you will need to buy the book. But as I say, if you really want to explore what Olga means by agile CX, then please do reach out to her, and she will absolutely be delighted to share information on it with you. So thank you so much, Olga. Lovely to see you as always. It is time for us to move from Georgia back to the UK. And so while we're waiting for Sharon, who is going to be our next speaker, to join us, just for information to everyone, we are also very lucky to have Greg Melia as part of our community listening in today. Greg, for those of you who don't know, is the CEO of the CXPA, the Customer Experience Professionals Association, a community that I'm very proud to have been part of for a long time. As a result, Naeem and myself have twisted his arm to say a few words as well. So we will squeeze you in, Greg, at the end. So Sharon, welcome. It's so lovely for you to join us. It looks as though you are in a wonderful environment, whether it is a shed or an office or whatever, I don't know, but it looks lovely. So it also proves that the UK isn't always raining, which I think is quite a nice thing. So Sharon, to those who don't know you,
yeah,
tell us a little bit about Sharon and her philosophy.
hi everyone. So I'm Sharon Boyd and I'm the Chief Customer Officer at MKL Innovation. So we are an Internet of Things house in Yorkshire. I can't say whether it's sunny or not because I'm much further south than the rest of the guys. But yeah, so we are all about Internet of Things. So my I guess area of expertise that we're very much moving into is all about customer experience in technology and how the two go together, because quite often techie world and CX world are very, very different, and it's how to bring those together in a partnership. So that is what we're all about, and how we can help businesses to really simplify their processes and make them much more customer focused.
And as you rightly say, this is something that is so vitally important, but many organizations still don't get it, and just in terms of the way it needs to come together. I'm going to ask you a question again that you don't know I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to ask you that the term Internet of Things was bandied around a lot, probably 2-3 years ago. You don't hear many people using it now, as openly as they were. Just very, very succinctly, how do you define Internet of Things in the current world that we live in?
So IoT is all about how all of your devices are linked together through the internet. And if anything is linked together, you can get data from it and you can control it. And having data around your operation is so valuable because of the insights that you can do with that. So if you think about it from an energy point of view, if you know exactly how much energy is being used and spent across your operation, you can reduce it and reduce your carbon footprint. But you can use it for anything across your operation. That's just one reason for it.
Now, I'm not blowing smoke up your behind, but that's the best, simplest explanation I've heard in 3 years. So thank you for that. You see, I never stop learning. I think it's brilliant. So with that in mind, what is your key message to organizations of how they should be doing this?
So that's really helpful that you've just got me to talk through IoT and how to kind of be succinct with it, because that is our whole ethos about making IoT easy and simple. And that is one of the things that there's a lot of at the moment, fear. So there's fear around COVID, there's fear around the unknown, there's fear about what happens next, what happens with my job, what happens with my family, my school, all of that kind of stuff. So we are used to that from an Internet of Things. So before this COVID stuff happened, we were very aware there's a lot of customer fear and misunderstanding, confusion out there about tech. So we also have a 5G area of our business. There's lots of fear around 5G and does it cause COVID and what is it and is it going to hurt me? So we're very used from a technical world of trying to understand and get underneath the fear that customers have and embrace it and not shying away from it. And I think that is something that's really important now, whether it's technical or whatever it is that you have in your business, to understand where the customer is and embrace that, and then put steps in place to reassure them. So that's very much our philosophy, and we do a lot around that, and just meeting it head on.
Again, completely agree. Well, those that know me know that I preach a lot, and I'm continuously preaching about the need to understand the customer journey before you throw technology at it. And far too often it's the other way around. Technology is thrown at the business without knowing the journey. What the last 6 months have demonstrated is that there is an even greater reliance on technology than ever before, because we can't interact in the way that we used to. And so many organizations have accelerated the adoption of technology. What again, hopefully I'm not asking a question that's going to repeat what you've just said, but what would you say to companies right now about how should they be bringing technology in right now in this current situation?
So there's a few things there. As you said, a lot of companies have had to really accelerate digital transformation. So they've had to throw a lot of platforms and ways of working in there that just to get people working from home. And that can be quite confusing for people, using Teams and then Zoom and then Go meeting and that, what? So trying to keep it as simple as possible. And quite often tech isn't simple. You know, you have to throw different bits in, you have to make it secure. So there's some real pieces there about just understanding the basics of what you need to make your operation work. What do your employees or what do your customers physically need, and then build from there and keep that human factor in. We often talk about human-centered design, don't we, in CX? And in the tech world, that is more important than anything. I really do believe that, because if you just keep throwing tech out there and you need this certificate and you need, you know, there's a real place for multi-factor authentication, for instance, that's really important. But if you keep throwing tech layer over tech layer over tech layer, all that's going to happen is you're going to just turn off your customers, frighten them, and you just put in all sorts of barriers in.
Again, I completely agree. I think my concern is that too many see technology as the answer to reducing cost and eliminating human interaction. But I love what you've just said, because business is all about people. And, you know, ultimately, if you remove human interaction, you remove too much of it, you can make the experience worse. So I do have a question that's come from Sirte, which I'm going to ask you in a moment. But before I ask that question, tell us about the future, because this acceleration has happened. People may or may not yet know the fallout or the success or failure of digital adoption. What should companies be thinking about going forward?
I think it's about eating your own dog food. So really understanding how it feels for a customer, how it feels for an employee to do business with you. What does it feel like on the other side? And if you start going through that, you'll feel the barriers that are in place, whether they're digital, technical, operational, emotional, all that kind of thing. And then you can just go back down to the basic that you need. So actually in my chapter in the book, I actually talk about a Gemba Walk, which is just basically a tool where you go and watch your front end operation and you observe your employees as they interact with customers. And that might be as simple as watching on the website to see how users move around, how they go through that shopping trolley experience, but walking through the whole thing. How do I order something? How hard is it for me to shop with you? And that, I think, is really something that people need to be doing again now. Business owners need to be checking in with their own experience that they're putting out there, seeing what it really feels like rather than assuming that they know. And only by doing that can they move forwards.
I totally agree. In fact, it made me smile when I read your chapter, because as an old process improvement guy, I haven't seen the word Gemba for quite a long time. Again, none of this is complicated, no. But it's remarkable how few do that. You know, they don't experience what their customers are experiencing. You've already answered the question of your chapter in the book, so that gives me the opportunity to ask this question. The question being AI. Now, I don't know why, it makes me feel uncomfortable saying AI, because everyone bandies it around all the time. Sirte's question is, what is your take on using artificial intelligence for developing customer experience? What is your take on it? Is it just like the Internet of Things buzzword, people say it without really getting it, or how should people be interpreting it?
So I think artificial intelligence can very much be an enabler, same as most tech. And if you treat it in that way, and again, design it around the human experience and use it to complement what you already have, then it is fantastic. But it equally can be, and again, it can be scary. People automatically go to, oh, the Terminator's going to pop out. Again, if you're going to use AI, or you're talking about AI, it should not be all about the fact that it's a buzzword and yay, we're using AI. It should be behind the scenes, very much to support your operation, support your customer, and just move people forwards, not using tech for tech's sake. So it has to be how you design it, not just to use it because it's fancy and we're cutting edge. It's not what this is about.
Yeah, completely agree. I'll never forget, I think it was 2010. when a leader came up to me and said, "I need an app." So, no? And I'm sure many of you have been through the same thing. Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing your expertise and for finally giving me a description of Internet of Things that makes sense. I think if we do this again, we will call this the Eating Your Own Dog Food webinar. I think we love that expression. So thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to stick in the UK for now, and we are going to move from Sharon to Dan. Dan, who's got the most complicated name of everyone that we are talking to today, Dan Hoff-Rodrigues, who is not too far from me logistically in the UK. Welcome, Dan. It's lovely to see you with us. Tell them you don't know about you, a little bit about who you are, because CX2, that background behind you, isn't just there to look pretty. It does mean something. So tell us a little bit about you, and again, what's your philosophy on CX?
Yeah, so thanks for having us on this event. I think let me just be clear. I'm not a CX expert like all my many fellow co-authors, and so it was an honour to be part of the book. But we are very much using CX principles in order to, I suppose, change a very transactional and indifferent industry that is recruitment. So the CX squared stands for candidate experience and client experience. But the message very much is, look, you don't have to be a paying customer. Obviously, candidates in this current market especially get treated pretty badly. And for us, we want to treat our candidates as if they are a paying customer. And, that's really a big philosophy behind why I created the business.
No, amazing. And the point about expert, we're all specialists in some way. And again, those that know me know that I obsess with not using the word expert because we never want to stop learning. And, I think you're an absolute credit to what you do and the CX profession, whether you consider yourself a CX professional or not. You're in I suppose, as fascinating a part of the business world as anything else, because one would argue that the people who are being affected more by the current situation, more than customers, are employees. So I'm going to change tack slightly in terms of the questions that I ask you, but what is your message at the moment to people that are looking to get a role or to recruit a role? Emotion at the moment is so variable. The way people are feeling, there is such a mix of emotions. How are you helping people through this?
Yeah, good question, Ian. I think if we rewind, a big part of why we probably stand out, and we're getting a lot of customers and candidates, deal with us on a regular basis, is because we really dive into a business's culture and their values. So there's a lot of people that have already spoken about that on this event. And in order to really bring in people, it's about understanding that maybe a decade ago or decades ago, that when you hired someone, it was about what they could do technically. It wasn't about their personality, about their personas and their culture and their values. And actually, we are trying to educate many businesses, especially within the tech sphere, that those values, that personality fit, that cultural fit is far more important than just the technical elements. You can teach the technical elements. You can teach those people to retrain. You can get them to retrain, but you can't get that cultural fit, that marriage. You spend more time at work than you do at your own home.
Yes.
And therefore it's so important. And then just to answer your question, if you're looking for work at the moment, you're looking for a job, you need to be bold and you need to be out there. You think about digital. So go and use video as much as you can. Bring that CV to life how you might do, rather than just sending applications on a regular basis. And that's something we've actually done. So we partnered with the likes of Aston University and BCU to give free access to our video software. So graduates can actually record their themselves over video in order to enhance that job application. So it's just not another CV.
Yes.
And the reason being is that, look, what's the point? A CV is actually probably soon to be dated. It's soon to be redundant if you think about it. So, use video and be bold. Use LinkedIn. Put yourself out there. Engage. Comment on posts. Interact and connect with businesses you're interested in working with. Go the extra mile. That isn't just sending your CV via a black hole or a careers app.
So let me, brilliant. I'm so pleased that you've joined us today, because I think more and more people need to hear that positivity from people that like you that are in this space. Just coming back to this point about technical competence versus attitude or behaviors, is it possible to, I think anything is possible, but I'm interested to know your view on how do you change the mindset of a recruiting manager who comes to you saying, I need someone with these qualifications. They have to have those qualifications. How do you change someone's mindset to get to really believe that actually bringing someone in that has the right mindset is as important, if not more important, than having the perceived skills to do a job?
I think there's two sides to it. I think, one of our key values, we've got 7 we's and C's. And one of them, we use this word heavily, consultancy or consultative. And actually the reality is that if you want to be a yes person, then you're not managing your customers' expectations. And, we never say yes. I mean, on the candidate side, we told candidates to go and take other offers that, would be detrimental to us. But moving jobs is one of the 4 things you do that are the biggest 4 things in your life. So if we are to go and tell someone to take a job that's wrong for them, then not only are we doing wrong by that customer who is the client, but we're doing wrong by that person that's taking that job. And we are not going to do that. So in order to change one's mindsets, you have to say no, and you need to push back. We probably get more respect from our clients that aren't even clients at that point, can I say? They've not gone and potentially utilized our services, but we've gone and said, do you know what? That isn't right, and that's not the right thing to do. And you're either going to agree with us, and you're going to say, do you know what? Actually, that's quite an authentic person, and that's quite an authentic message that potentially is going right through that business, which is exactly what we're doing there. And if you're going to agree with us, then you're probably going to want to work with us. But if you're not, then I've got to be honest, most recruitment companies just take anything that they can get. And in this market, I can get that, but we're not going to be those people. We want to understand that culture, those values, those people, that business, in order to find the match that is going to be right for that business. That's why we're doing it.
And you know what? It brings us back to what Olga P was saying about the need to do the right thing. And it also connects back to what Sirte was saying about, that we need to bring a bit of fun, a bit of joy back into this, because, we spend most of our lives at work. And so I think the profession and recruitment in general is in very good hands with you and your colleagues focusing on this. I think it's brilliant. Just tell everyone a little bit about what I can assume that people will guess what you've written about in the book, but tell us a little bit, give us a taster of what's in the book.
In a snapshot, before I set up the business, many people in the recruitment industry, when I told them I was going to go and do it, said, why would you want to just go and be another person in 15,000 other recruitment businesses in the UK? Firstly, if someone tells you no, especially with my sort of personality traits, I just go and do it. So that's my message to many people out there. If you've got an idea, be creative. The recruitment industry is one of the least creative industries out there. And we've looked to seek to change that, not only in terms of the way we've been innovative with technology, but just the way that we've been creative in the way that we can say yes, no, and how we've been helping our clients be creative, our candidates be creative. We're more than just a CV pushing exercise here. And that's what I think people think of recruiters. And our chapter is on how we give back to the community, not wanting anything back from that, and how we're looking to inspire the next gen, bridge the digital skills gap, but also how you don't need to take money for that. We're here to change lives, leave a legacy. We're not here to be millionaires. And that's what
wonderful. And again, I'm inspired just listening to you. And I'm sure everyone else would love to have more than 10 minutes, but it is inspiring. And again, it does further validate that business is about people. you know, and we cannot lose the importance of that human interaction within organizations and across organizations. So once again, thank you so much, Dan, for sharing your thoughts with us this afternoon. If you want to know more, please do reach out to Dan. And if you want to find out his thoughts on that subject, then you're going to have to buy the book as well. So we move from Dan to another part of the world. We're going to go across the Atlantic to the US. And it is an absolute pleasure to have Stacy join us. Stacy, are you there? Can you hear me? Obviously, there's a little bit of a time delay as the message goes across the water. We're just trying to connect Stacy. While we're waiting for Stacy to get connected, we still have two more people that we're going to hear from in this session. We are going to hear from Spiros shortly, who is in Athens in Greece, before I then pick on Greg Melia, who's also in the US, to say a few words as well. Stacy, yes, I can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay, great. Let me turn on my camera also.
Hooray, there she is. Fabulous.
Does that work? Because
it does.
My iPad wasn't working.
Don't worry. Good morning, Stacy. It's so lovely to have you with us. Our US contingent for today. Tell people a little bit about Stacy, what you do, and again, I keep asking for people's philosophy, but you know, what do you believe in when it comes to CX?
Yes, so I am all about humanizing business and leading with a heart. And what I do for a living is exactly that. I'm head of CX and leading employee engagement at a global company, Schindler Elevator Corporation, based in Switzerland. And I am doing CX right by night. And basically walking, talking CX and employee experience 24/7, other than when I'm sleeping.
And which makes you a 100% bona fide CX professional, because our brains never switch off. And actually you summarize yourself wonderfully by explaining your philosophy before your job. You know, and I think you do demonstrate very clearly what this profession is all about, and humanizing business, I think, sums it up very, very, very well. Being in the US, obviously, you will have a different perspective. We won't get into politics, we'll avoid that. But what's your message at the moment? Obviously, you're a practitioner on the inside of an organization, but what's your message to your business and to the peers that you interact with in your part of the world?
Yes, so a lot of it was said earlier, and I'm going to try to be a little different. You have to apply things differently, especially now during this pandemic. So what I mean by that, we have a survey team. We asked thousands of customers how their experience was. Would they recommend the company? Why or why not? That's nothing new across different companies. What's different is how you pivot. In other words, my team is calling customers, and I call them peace of mind calls. So it's not the standard question. There's no script. It's about, are you okay? What can we do? We're open and here for you. And that's where I say that there's the human element, but there's also, it's a heart and science approach, because there's a lot of metrics and numerics that we also gather. And I give that information to our 60 sales offices to make sure that they are applying what customers tell us. Yes. And close that loop.
Yes. What has the reaction been from customers? Obviously, you're in a B2B, I'm guessing predominantly. You know, how have your customers reacted to that? Because they're not used to a corporate organization phoning them saying, "Are you okay?" To give us a little bit of insight into that.
Yeah, they remember it when this is done. We're not calling to say, "Let me sell you." We're calling to say, "Are you okay?" And the point of this story is you have to show empathy. And CX has a lot of methodologies to it, and journey mapping and persona development. But my message to the audience is keep it real, be authentic, because your customers know it and your employees too. And they're the ones that deliver excellence, even when the boss isn't looking.
100%. And, I think over time, some of the best examples of customer centricity have come from the US. Organizations who were designed from the very beginning to be empathetic. Regrettably, some of the worst examples come from the US as well, as we know. However, the point about empathy, I often see that, again, conceptually, it's easy to understand, but when business leaders are up against the wall, that the numbers are going in the wrong direction, empathy costs money. I haven't got time for any of this. What would your message be about how do we get beyond that? How do we get leaders to think, do you know what? Actually, empathy is connected to sustainability and ultimately growth.
So, do you go to Starbucks? Do you have Starbucks there?
I have been known to visit Starbucks, yes.
All right. There's a point here. We pay triple the price, or I do, for a cup of coffee. Why? Not because I like to, but it's because of the experience when I walk in there, when they make a mistake, how they handle it. From the entire journey, it is excellent. And so that's the point, that when you show empathy, when you care, when you personalize experiences, people will pay more. And that applies to every company. It's not about price. When products are relatively the same and price is relatively the same, it's the experience that wins.
Completely agree with you. So what about the future, Stacy? We don't know when this is going to end. What should people be thinking about going forward?
So first of all, you need really good leaders, because when you have good leaders, you're able to drive your people to go up and beyond. So that's first of all. It starts on the inside in terms of great leadership. And one of the things I do with my team, this is not CX related, but it actually proves my point. I'm having a book club with my team. And it's all about Simon Sinek's Start with the Why.
Yes.
And we're learning about each other's why. And then we're able to support each other so that every day we're supporting each other in and out of work. And what does that have to do with CX? A lot. Because the more that your employees feel engaged and motivated and that you care and they feel valued, they pay it forward to the customer. So that's one thing. You need great leadership going into the future. I loved your talking points about technology. IoT is very big at what we do at our workplace. It is a differentiator. And my point is, I also came from Verizon previously, which is a big technology company.
Yes.
And the point is that you have to use technology, but not replace it with human factors. So let it enhance. So as we go into the future and have more technology and more choices, remember to enhance the customer experience at each journey point, but don't replace it.
Love it. Brilliant. 60 seconds, Stacy. What can people expect from your chapter in the book?
My chapter is about leveraging voice of customer and the voice of employee as your game changer.
Ah, fabulous. Now, these are subjects I hugely believe in as well, and the alignment between VOE and VOC. Let's not tell anyone about it because they're going to need to read the book to find out more about it. Thank you so much, Stacy, for joining us. It's always brilliant to hear from those who are still on the inside, fighting the good fight every day. If you want to know more, Stacy is such a wealth of information, and I'm sure someone who will be delighted to share more with you. So do connect with her and keep learning. Thank you so much, Stacy. We are going to go back across the Atlantic, back into Europe as we come towards the end of our session today, to someone who I describe as one of my Greek brothers, the wonderful Spiros in Athens in Greece. Hi, Spiros.
Hi, Ian. Hello, everyone.
It's so lovely to see you.
It's really great.
It's always difficult when you come on at the end because, you know, everyone else has warmed up the crowd for you. But tell people a little bit about you and again, your philosophy on customer experience, which I think is going to be very aligned to our other colleagues.
Yeah. Well, being towards the end is not the only thing that is unfair here. I mean, after a couple of native speakers, the Greek comes in. How is that fair? So hello everyone, my name is Spiros. I'm the founder of Krateon Consulting. We are a boutique consulting agency based in Athens, in Greece. Customer experience is a big part of what we do. And my personal aspiration, philosophy, it's about helping people and businesses obviously grow sustainably, but with people feeling happy and free. And freedom has to do with the ability of being in a place or doing things that because actually you want to, not because you have to. And this changes everything because that inner state allows you to put yourself into what you're doing and enjoy yourself more and therefore help your business grow sustainably. So this is what me and my team were trying to do.
And I know you do it brilliantly, and there's a lovely thread that's coming throughout all of us this afternoon, which is brilliant. Tell us what you're seeing right now. Obviously, Greece actually dealt very well with the pandemic, but what are you seeing in terms of the way organizations are coping with all of this at the moment?
Okay, but well, basically, it's something that we have already heard from the other speakers. I think right now, after COVID-19, businesses have acknowledged the need for walking the talk, and they have acknowledged the need for being agile and adapting very fast, right? So this is something that for some has been easier than others, but since actually CX is about stories, I just want to share a story that highlights this, right? So I was reading the other day about Holland & Barrett. It's a UK chain that offers vitamins and supplements. So basically, they were talking about how it's important to demonstrate the values and how the customers nowadays are impatient, they are ruthless. So they actually, what they did was something very, very smart. They introduced the pennies micro donation solution, which is actually every time you buy, they round up the amount you pay, and the pennies that round up the amount actually go into charity, which is really amazing. And at the same time, they partnered with an application, I think it's called Deliveroo, that helped actually deliver their products faster. They set up distribution hubs. So all of that, and part of that actually was done just in 2 weeks. So what we're seeing is companies right now being able to very, very quickly adapting because they know they don't have a choice.
Yes.
What is interesting is that a couple of weeks ago, I placed an order in Holland & Barrett, and it was supposed to be delivered on the 14th, I think, of August. And I emailed them because on the, I think, 20th or something, I hadn't received anything. And I got an email back from customer service saying that, you know what, there is a problem in the courier we're working with. So I went ahead, I canceled your order, and if the courier finds it and it finds your the way into you, just keep it, no charge. Have a nice day. I'm like, that's very interesting, but I still don't have my vitamins. So what I'm seeing, just to make the link with your question, is that I see companies that are struggling to adapt. They're struggling to walk the talk. And both of these two things is extremely difficult, especially change and adoption is very difficult. But I think that the struggle is, and the difficulties businesses are facing, is into doing those changes in a sustainable way. So it's not just about adapting in the short term. It's not just about managing a crisis. It's about how you can, in a sustainable way, with the long-term perspective, can actually transform your organization to actually become all those things that my friends and co-authors have shared. It's about becoming more empathetic, becoming more human, more purposeful, more genuine. But I think this is the struggle we're seeing right now.
Yes.
It's businesses that manage to adapt,
yes.
but it seems that they focus on the short term.
I so agree with you. And an expression that is often used when we're talking to leaders and businesses is the burning platform. It's not uncommon for people like you and me to be contacted when suddenly the platform is on fire. Come and help us. But why do these businesses never think about, well, let's prevent it from getting on fire in the first place? And so what would your message be to businesses that want to sustain themselves in the future? That sometimes means you've got to go backwards before you go forwards. You know, again, what would your, it's a very difficult question to ask in a few words, but what would your message be to a business about potentially having to get smaller and redefine its purpose before it can go ahead?
Well, it's exactly what you said. I mean, it's always very, very useful taking a step back, becoming smaller and growing and smaller and growing. And this feels like breathing, right? And it's natural because organizations are living, vibrant entities. They're not soulless or entities with a tax ID number. So all this breathing is part of a natural process. So my advice would be changing, evolving is a natural. It's natural. It's part of life, right? And it requires changing, and changing by default, it's a very disturbing process. So you've heard me saying that I love a definition of change, which is the disturbance of repeating patterns, which means that by definition, it's disturbing. So my input would be start feeling more comfortable being discomfortable. So start actually being okay with the fact that you need to constantly change, observe, and don't reach that point where you change because you don't have an option. Just embrace it as part of life.
I love it. Again, another brilliant quote. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know, I love it. That's a brilliant message. So Spiros, again, just because I think it's so important that people know how they can hear more of your perspective. If people buy the book, sorry, not if, when they buy the book, what are they going to learn from your chapter?
So I think my chapter is very much around adoption. And nowadays we see a lot of businesses, which is very normal and human, and they're actually busy acting. So if this is where an organization is, and this is where they want to go, small change, big change, become more customer centric, we see a lot of companies actually doing that. So they're acting, but there's not actual movement. So my chapter is all about the things that leaders, executives, change agents should keep in mind in order to help and facilitate the organization to actually move, rather than just keep being busy acting, preserving the current routines.
Wonderful. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Spiros. I cannot stress enough how Spiros is one of the nicest, kindest human beings on earth.
Lucas
So
talking.
even if you think he's talking complete rubbish, if you want a very good person to speak to listen to you, to give you a perspective on this, you must reach out to Spiros. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ian.
Before I introduce our surprise guest for today, because he didn't expect that Naeem and I were going to twist his arm to say something, thank you, Stuart Brown, for your interaction on chat and your questions. Stuart, what I would ask is the question that you've posed, could you just put that into the chat? And then if I could ask my fellow panelists to have a look at Stuart's question and respond in the chat, just in the interest of time. Thank you very much. Greg, it is so lovely to see you. It's so good to see that the fact that you have still a big smile on your face. Your business has changed, had to change dramatically. You've heard a lot in the last hour. I'm hoping that that gives you even more confidence, if you needed it, that the profession is alive and kicking, and there is a lot happening. What's your sort of summary of what you've heard, the situation, and your message to the CX community?
Thanks, Ian. As I listened, my smile grew bigger and bigger. And I'll apologize to everyone on my virtual background. I learned that if you have a background set on your phone, it works different than the background on your computer. So obviously my last call was a little bit more informal. But as I've been listening to the conversation, what I hear is that it's essential for us to continue to beat the drum for CX, and for us to keep in mind that CX is not about the software system that you buy. It's not about a proprietary piece of methodology. It's about sound practice built in research, listening to customers, carrying the metrics, building the customer centricity, and really leading that change, that iterative change over time. And one thing that came up with every speaker and your interaction with them, this is a field that is really based in passion. It's based in passion in making a difference for customers, for the organizations, and helping and supporting, one another. So I couldn't be prouder of the speakers, so many CCXPs, so many longtime CXPA contributors.
You're trying to say that I'm old, Greg? No,
well, CXPA is only going to be 10 years next year, so you're not too old yet. And you notice I didn't use the word mature either.
Yes, yes, yeah. No, I'm definitely not mature, yeah.
But I couldn't be more thrilled about the international movement that's going on. For anyone who is interested in looking at a little bit more, if you're not familiar with CXPA, take a look at whatiscx.com. And that will really reinforce a lot of the key pieces there. But tremendously great to hear this. Great to hear that Olga's leading this program in Russia tomorrow. And I hope that everyone's gearing up to join us on October 6th.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you must, if you haven't already, get involved in CX Day on the 6th of October this year. CX Day is always a wonderful time to celebrate the hard work that everyone does. But I think we need CX Day this year more than any other to continue to give each other a boost, and continue to share and motivate each other. If people go onto the CXPA website, Greg, can they find out more information there? Or is there a special CX Day website?
Yeah, if you just go ahead and navigate to cxday.org, it will take you right to the right place. And I'll admit, I'm playing hooky from doing the updates to the website. So if you look now, you'll see the information's coming soon. If you tune in this evening, you'll see that the information's been
updated. There you go. You see, I'm motivating Greg to make that happen.
You motivate us all, yeah.
Absolutely. There is lots of stuff that will be going on in companies, by different people, and that's the perfect segue actually for me passing the final baton to Naeem. But Greg, thank you so much for joining us today. It was so good to see you.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything you and your colleagues do for the profession. Just to close us off today, it's wonderful for me to be able to bring Naeem into the conversation. Naeem is someone that I've now known for a couple of years. This man works harder than, well, I think he works harder than anyone I know, genuinely, managing about 75 different businesses and various other social things that he does, and is doing a huge amount to bring CX professionals together. I think he's another demonstration that we do this because this is what we believe in and this is what we love, and it's about doing the right thing. Naeem is the mastermind behind bringing us together today as well. So thank you for having the inspiration for that. Based on what you've heard over the last hour, it's been a real sort of whistle-stop tour. What's at the top of your mind right now?
Well, I'm just going to say something really simple. Really proud of the work we've done with the CX books, because the idea was that there's lots of really good people out there in the world who need to share their thoughts with everyone else, you know, and that's what we've seen today. Someone like Dan, you know, he was on the NatWest Accelerator program where I was mentoring, and I said, do you want to come and write a chapter? And he was, me? Really, me? And, you know, you've heard him for the first time today, and he said, it's brilliant. So really proud of what we're doing. Love collaborating with you and everyone else, and let's continue to share, because CX doesn't belong to everyone, it's for everyone. And if we love what we do, we should continue to share it. So well done today. Thank you, Ian, and all the panelists.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Naeem. Obviously, we will send out the link to the recording shortly. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you to all of the panelists. And you never know, we might do this again. But thank you, everyone, and we will see you soon.